I'm Narelle Todd.
And I'm Essie Susan Smith.
We are the self-publishing author and marketing duo that has sold over 2 million books. But we didn't start out knowing how to sell books. Fast forward past many failed promotions and a lot of lessons learned, you will see how we went from self-publishing newbies to hitting the New York Times bestsellers list and making the USA Today bestsellers list 19 times and counting. We created the Get My Book Out There podcast to give you simple yet effective marketing strategies to increase readership and book sales, so you know what to do, when to do it, and how to do it, as well as some tips for staying mentally and physically well.
Let's get started.
And we are joined here today
Jill
with
Wallace.
Jill Wallace.
Hi.
Hi, Jill.
Hi, Jill.
Hi, guys.
Now, Jill was with us in
Nice to see
another.
you.
Absolutely. So Jill was with us in another podcast, and I want you to make sure that you go and see that first. And Jill's talking about her writing, the 2 novels that she has out, set in South Africa. When we were chatting, we were like going, we need to actually talk to Jill about something else. And this is something that we all have experience with in life. And we just wanted to just tease it out a little bit as to how she dealt with this topic, which is disappointment. So I'm sure we've all had something that's not quite worked, and it can really derail us, particularly on a creative journey. So we just wanted to delve in that a bit further with Jill. Susan, you ever had any disappointments in your writing journey?
Oh gosh, more than I can count on both hands and toes, and maybe had a few ballistic missiles heading from Australia to America heading towards me when I haven't quite finished things that I should have started. And a lot is the fear, every once in a while, no matter how hard you try, that fear grabs hold of you and doesn't want to let go.
Yeah.
So what about you as a
Me?
creative? Yeah.
Oh, yes. Well, you have an idea of how something is going to be, and then, you'll hear of an opportunity or something and you go, yep, that's, that just feels right. And I tend to work a lot on gut feel. And if it feels right, then it must be, it's meant to be. And then, dang it, sometimes it doesn't actually happen that way. It's like, what the hell? So, yes, yeah, a few disappointments along the way. And you just go, oh man. But
the one that stands out the most for me,
what?
I learned real quick, because when you said the gut feeling, I had this dream about 4 a.m. I woke up and it was like, oh, I had this brilliant idea. And at the time I was teaching 3rd grade, and I went into the class the next morning and I had all these whiteboards that I had cut. So I had like 12 by 12 whiteboards for 34 kids. And I had the bright idea that they would individualize the back of each one with paint. Yeah, I mean, the expressions on your faces, yeah. That's one of those moments when you realize if you get a great idea at 4 a.m., don't follow it. Talk about disappointment.
Yeah.
It's one of those moments in life that stands with you. So, it's a funny moment, but it also makes you realize that sometimes great, brilliant ideas or thoughts that you're having that you're thinking, oh, this is going to go great, it doesn't always do it. It's like paint splattered everywhere.
Yeah.
And you have kids that decide to paint their hands and their face, and then you have to send them out like that to their parents.
You have parents.
And their clothes.
And the clothes. And then you're mopping. And yeah. So that's kind of like the chaotic mess that sometimes you feel like, I know we're talking to Jill today about it, because sometimes life does feel kind of chaotic and messy and like paint splattered everywhere, doesn't it, Jill?
It really does. It really does. And everything, when it happens, everything feels like the end of the world. And it takes somebody else to point out to you that it's really not. In fact, I'd never written anything before I wrote a screenplay. So, and I learned this craft because I knew War Serenade I wanted to see it on the screen. And that's the whole reason I started writing, was that I could read, that I could create this thing that would become a moving picture. And so I really spent a lot of money learning my craft for years. And then I went and LA, and it's a very thwarting process when you're pitching in LA. In these big screen fests, you have 2 minutes, and you've got 2 minutes before the bell rings, and you get kicked out of your chair, and somebody else takes your place to impress somebody. So it's like an adrenaline rush second to none. So I snagged a producer by the grace of God. And in fact, he was the one who said to me, "This is too happy. You've got to give me some conflict." I did give him conflict, and I'll never forget the call. He called me up. Somebody's not going to even recognize this anymore, this sign of the telephone anymore. But he called me up and he said, "Now we have a movie." And I was so excited. It was the most beautiful words I'd ever heard. And 3 months later, we stayed in touch, and he signed an option for a year, and he came back from the AFI, the American Film Festival, and he said, "I've got 3 money people. They're excited about it. I'm getting together with them soon." And the next call I got was from his director, who was going to direct my movie, and she said he died. He had a heart attack and passed away last night. So I mean, I was devastated for him and his family, and I was also devastated selfishly for me. And I went on and forgot about writing. And then I got I was dabbling in Zebra as a script too, but then I got a call from the director who had been attached, and she had a South African company who was interested. So they signed me up on an option, and I thought, oh, lovely. But then there I really learned the difficulty of having to let go of your script, because everybody, it's a collaborative medium, and everybody wants to change your words. So it was a very difficult experience and a very eye-opening one. And the movie never got made. And I was telling you and Narelle about this and said, I was so crushed. And you said, and Susan, tell us what you said to me, which was so profoundly full of wisdom.
Well, one of the things that I had learned through experience was that sometimes not getting something can actually be a good thing. And, like you have this guardian angel standing over your shoulder saying, no, now's not the time. It's not ready yet, or that's not the people that you want to go with. And for me, I looked at it as one of 2 things. Is one, it could be the moment when you weren't ready for it emotionally. It's like writing. I knew that if I would have tried my writing ability 20 years ago, I wouldn't have had the skin that I had in it. I would have caved at the criticism and the attacks, and not always getting, the achievements that I felt like I was working so hard for. You look at different things like that, and then other times, like the 2 examples that I gave you earlier, was I had gotten turned down by one place, which turned out to be a blessing because they ended up going bankrupt and keeping the author's rights, and I would have lost all my work. Or a second one who was really pressuring me, and he, found out that he was doing some unethical things, and I would have been roped into all of that. And both of those could have ruined my career if something hadn't stepped in and said, no, not yet. So when I look at your experience, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, you've already had the door open for you. You've got this great script. You've got people that are interested. That shows that it's a great story, a great script for a movie, and not to give up. I kept thinking, well, what if people like Stephen King or J.K. Rowling would have given up? Then we never would have had all these great stories. So I'm thinking, just coming out of the gate, you had these wonderful opportunities, and I'm thinking, the sky's the limit for you. Listen to your story now, especially. The sky is definitely the limit for you.
But that's so wise, because honestly, probably until this very day, I felt like it was such a tremendous blot on a slight on my potato. And you just removed it and popped it in the deep fryer. So I'm thrilled. I'm healed.
I'm like, oh my gosh, you've got all these opportunities, and now they're hungry. I mean, you look at all the different venues that are just begging for great scripts. They are starving. And, you've got opportunities now that you didn't have when War Serenade first came
That's
out.
so true.
So, I mean,
Very,
now
very
is the
true.
time. I think now you're ready for it and your story is ready for it. And, the times are ready for it. And that makes such a difference when everything starts aligning.
Yeah. Very wise ladies you are.
a
Full of
mentor once,
wisdom.
yeah, a mentor said to me once, not to get caught up in the result, to want something so much that you can actually disassociate yourself from the how. And it took me ages to work out and actually understand that, because it was like, well, this is the goal and I'm going to do these steps to get to the goal. Whereas what she was saying was, this is the goal, but how you get there could look really different to what you think now. And if you put your blinkers on, yeah, if you put your blinkers on and, if you say to yourself, the only way to get, let's say, $5 million is to do this. When she said, it could be that you might win a house lottery and it's $5 million. You might get a gift from somebody of $5 million. You might win the lottery. There are so many ways that you could possibly get money, or it could come in little chunks. It doesn't have to be one great big, lot. And that my role is to go, this is the vision for what I want, and these are the steps I'm going to take, and I will be flexible enough to be able just
Go
to
with
go,
the flow.
yeah. And life got so much easier. Once I worked
You
out,
know what that is?
hey.
You know what? That's a really good way of looking at it too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because
For mindset.
then you can enjoy the journey instead of just focusing on your destination. Because it's so easy to not enjoy the journey because you're so driven to get to the destination. That's very, very cool way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
As long
It's
as we know what
interesting.
we want.
It's interesting that you're saying that, because I'm planning on next year doing the Appalachian Trail. And I would say probably 80% of the people that start never finish. But I'm not going with the idea that I necessarily will finish or that I'm going to give up. But what I loved about it is something that you said, Jill, that relates to that is it's all about the journey. And, I've read post where somebody said, oh yeah, I did it in X number of days and I regretted it because I finished it so quickly that I didn't stop just to really appreciate the journey. I didn't stop to look at all of these wonderful things. And he said, then, I'm looking at all of these pictures of people that took 3 times longer than I did. And I went past those same spots, but I didn't even see them because I was so focused on the very end.
Yeah.
And that's something I want to enjoy the journey. And as an author, I want to enjoy the journey. And they have another saying, which would be good for you: never give up on a bad day. So if you have a bad day, you can't give up.
Yes, it's like never make important decisions when you're under stress or
when you're having a really lousy deal with them.
So the way I look at your disappointment is it wasn't so much a disappointment. It felt like a disappointment then, and it was, but in another way, it's just an opportunity that's waiting to come, and you're going to be better prepared for it when it does happen.
From your lips to God's ears, dear Susan.
And I think also our concept or construct of time is something we need to look at as well. Whereas we go, we look at the event, say the script not happening, the movie falling through, we look at that as just, we take that part and we take that out and we hold that up and we say, well, I'm a failure, or good things won't come to me. We hold that up, whereas that's just this minute part of this whole life.
Yes.
And the whole of life, when we look at it, is probably amazing. I mean, Jill, just knowing about your background with, the travel you've been able to do and moving countries and just experiencing all these, wonderful and amazing things, having a wonderful partner for decades, building that relationship and that sort of, having a really good, great life. And you go, when you look at things, when you kind of take time, remove it from that small smidgen and you take it out and you just go, actually, this life is, frigging amazing. this little part sucks,
so
but that's
true.
okay. It's just this little part.
Yes,
And, you know,
that's
I
so
think
true.
everything comes around in its
A
time.
nice South African, and the pimple on the arse of an elephant.
I like that one.
Now, I have a question. If,
Um,
I have to wonder if War Serenade had been picked up as a movie, if Zevro would have ever been written,
Probably not. Yeah.
And that's something else that I have to wonder is, when you look at it that way, then what happens if Zebra ends up becoming the movie first? And if you had gotten War Serenade, Zebra would have never been written and never would have become a movie.
Yeah.
So these are,
Zebra's
You
tail
just
is
never know.
phenomenal. Yeah.
it's phenomenal.
We just
It
never
deals
know.
with
Hey,
such, an important period of history and about these two relationships. And I have to think that, especially right now, they're looking for movies like that, maybe that was the reason. You have to look at it and a bigger, like Norel was saying, you look at just this little narrow focus, but, sometimes when
right.
you pull that
Right.
away and you look at the bigger
Right.
picture, there's so much more that's available. I have to wonder.
I have to say that just talking to you today has minimized that awfulness of those two situations. You put it into perspective for me, and that's a gift. So both of you put it into
That's brilliant.
perspective, and that's really important because it's so easy to harp on something that is distasteful or and can bring you down when you're up, and you've put it into perspective. Thank
Yes.
you for
Yeah.
making it the pimple.
You're welcome. So just
Says the woman that loves to watch Dr. Pimple Popper.
I love
no.
Dr. Pimple Popper.
That's so gross.
Susan just outed me. So Jill, you're the first person apart from Susan to know that.
And now everybody will.
Those missiles are coming your way, Susan.
Mum's the word for me, but
So just to end our podcast, wondering for each one of us just to share one tip on how we deal with disappointment, pick ourselves up and get on with it. So what's the tip from each one of us that we can share with our listeners? What's worked for you? Doesn't have to be about the book or just in life in general. What's a tip that you can share?
I think it's just changing the goalposts. Moving the goalposts is what really worked for me, because somebody said, to hell with them all, write a book. And that wasn't even something that I even conceived or thought of. And so that opened up a whole different artistic part of my brain too, because of course you've got 442 pages that you can have characters talk to each other versus 110 pages in a script. So it really embellished what I'd begun as a screenwriter. So definitely by moving those goalposts, I grew and my craft grew. So, and I think that's true in life too. If you kick down and you have to get a new goal, because otherwise you'd wallow. So I think that's my necessity. How about you?
I like it. For me, it depends on what it is, but there's some things where I just go, I'm having wallow time, but I give myself a time. So like I might wallow for, okay, I've got an hour where I can feel sorry for myself, or it could be a day, no longer than a day though. And, it's pity party time and the world is falling, woe is me, I probably eat too much chocolate, I don't know, drink too much coffee, but then that's it. It's like, right, that's done.
Wow.
Let's get on with it. And I just find for me, just by allowing myself to do that, I recover much quicker and I rarely take a day. It'd be maybe an hour, a couple of hours at the most now. Just because of, you just build the resilience and you just go, well, no, actually it's okay. This is just a momentary thing. What amazing thing can come out of this that I'm not aware of? And I need to be open to that. So that's the conversation that goes on in my head. Okay, so this hasn't happened. this result hasn't happened, but what's the other amazing thing that could possibly come out of it? So then I start to think up, well, what could those things be? And of course that gets me all excited, and yeah, you keep on moving and taking action. That's what I do.
Beautiful.
How about for you, Susan?
That's beautiful.
For me, I try not to let it define who I am, but make me stronger. I take those disappointments, and I think one of the biggest things is when I've had people tell me I couldn't do something in life, and I just look at them and I say, watch me. And, it gives me that determination to find a way to, succeed. And I also put things in perspective. It's like, how big a deal is it? If the world hasn't ended, if my family's still safe, and, I have to sometimes take those disappointments and really put them, as Jill was saying, put them in perspective. Yes, I didn't get this, but there's still so many other opportunities out there. And so I pull up my big girl panties and I say, I'm gonna go get it. I'm gonna go do it. And if it's a really, really bad day, then I'll either talk to somebody who's throwing ballistic missiles at me all the time, or a hot fudge sundae helps.
That's what. When I was flying, I used to often look out of the window and see these, especially in congested area, like flying over LA or flying over, and you see all these millions of houses, and you think, I'm worried about whatever. Imagine in that house, just one of those billions of houses, how many worries they have, and how much more they could be worrying about than my pissy little thing that is concerning me.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a visual that really blew my mind. Anyway, that was just a thought.
Yes.
We have to enjoy the journey.
Yeah. Yeah. When you think of some people who are actually dealing with life and death, with their kids with some kind of disease or a loved one, and
where people were dying during COVID, and we were worried about our toilet paper supply. Perspective.
Yes. Very much so.
And now we get to laugh at all the people that have garages full of it.
My husband still makes me order it.
Jill, thank you so much for chatting to us.
That's funny.
We hope that any disappointments that you have in the future are all teeny tiny, and it's just
thank you.
And know that you're not alone.
Yeah.
Thank you, girls. You're just so wonderful and so positive and so full of joy. You're fabulous. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. And if everyone wants to catch Jill, you can go to jillwallace.com. She has 2 books currently out, more on the way. So make sure that you go and see or read Zebra and my War Serenade.
You're thinking of that pimple on the elephant's butt, aren't you?
I was like, I did actually. I went there and I was going zebra, elephant. It wasn't an elephant. Sorry about that, Jill. Mucking up your books.
Knew it was one of the.
It was something.
It's
in
so
South
good
Africa.
as long as it's based I'm fine.
Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you both so much. Cheers.
Hey, thanks for joining us today. We've got way more information we want to share with you to increase your book sales. So please come and join me at facebook.com. Get my book out there.